Hi BookTube, it's Amy. I'm here with 3 books, a small book haul from my shopping excursion this morning. I picked up this great big one and it's got Medusa on the cover here. I don't know if you can see well enough, but she's got all the snakes that make up her hair. And this is a dictionary of classical antiquities. I saw this one in the shop last weekend when I was out shopping, and I did buy it. I thought, oh, that's really interesting, but do I really need that? Will I really want to spend the money that it cost to bring that home with me? And at the time I thought no, because I had a stack of other things I was buying. I thought I can live without this one. But then it crept into my memory all week long, and I thought about it nearly every day. And then I was watching a couple of videos this week from Matthew of Mayberry Book Club. In November, he was reading a lot of ancient Roman literature, so classic literature. And that video from him yesterday, where he was giving a sum up of everything that he'd learned, was enough to pique my interest enough into reading some more of that kind of thing, to want to go back for this dictionary of classical antiquities. And it's from 1902. It used to be in a library. There's a book plate in the front here from the Royal Albert Institute, which I think is quite interesting. They added it to their collection in 1906. Windsor and Eton art classes in connection with the Board of Education, awarded to H.A. Brazier for build-up construction, October 26th, 1906, Albert Lee, something Lewis. And so it's unclear whether this was going into a collection or whether this was something that was won as an award. It seems to indicate that it was an award, so maybe it came from the institution into the owner's personal library. But it was published by Swan, Sunsenshin and Company, London, in 1902, the Macmillan Company in New York. And we've got this beautiful title page here with this Arc of Titus, Rome. And it says it's got more than 450 illustrations, and it is apparently translated from the German. The original German version of this book was by Dr. Oscar Seifert. This one in the English is revised and edited with additions by Henry Nettleship, M.A. and J.E. Sandys. And we've got something that I'm assuming must indicate a doctorate of some sort, Litt.D. Maybe that's literary doctor, but fellow and tutor of St. John's College and public orator in the University of Cambridge. That's actually a very interesting title. Nowadays, I don't think anyone would ever refer to themselves as a public orator, but perhaps in the study of the classics in the 1910s, early 20th century, perhaps that's something that was still done, or perhaps J.E. Sandys was just being pretentious here. But it certainly is an interesting way to refer to oneself. I think nowadays we would say that you're, a public speaker or a lecturer. And I think what I'm going to do here is you are going to get flipped so we can take a closer look at this book here. I think that's the angle we want. So here is the title page. We've got a preface. And so, yes, this is the 1902 7th edition. It appears here that the first edition was released in May of 1891. So this must have been quite a popular book. It certainly was published in a time when it was more common for people to study the classics. And perhaps this is something you would have on hand for not just reading the classics in a translation into English, but you would have it on hand if you were teaching yourself Latin or ancient Greek, perhaps. Dictionary of Classical Mythology, Religious Literature, Art, and Antiquities is the full title. I've got a number of prefaces here. But yeah, it's pretty much just laid out like a dictionary. So we have Achilles, son of Peleus, king of the Myrmidons in Thessalian. And we've got the whole, his family history and some information about the literature that is related to him, or rather the literature he appears in. Here's one of the illustrations that is talked about. This is an illustration of the Acropolis as it looked in 1889. Auspicia pilaria. What is the Auspicia pilaria? Auspicia, observations of birds. In its proper sense, the word means the watching of signs given by birds, but it also applied to other signs, the observation of which was not intended to obtain answers about future events, but only to ascertain whether a particular proceeding was or was not acceptable to the deity concerned. So Auspicia pilaria, the watching of birds, or for the watching of signs in nature, I suppose, to see whether something is pleasing to the gods or the deity in question, or to try and predict the future. And I thought this would just be an interesting book to have on hand, not only just to dip into now and then, because it certainly looks like it would make for interesting reading just to read the entries, but also if I'm reading an ancient Roman or an ancient Greek classic and I come across a word and I'm not sure what it means, I now have a resource that is not only going to give me a definition, but it's probably going to give me a more correct and perhaps a more robust definition that I would find if I just hopped on Google and put in whatever the word was. And it's also just really fun to look at coinage. So we have some entries here on coins. Ernest binding Pirithous to Hades, vase painting. And I think this is definitely the sort of thing, like, it's useful as an aid, but it looks like I could learn a lot just from reading through it. Fruits of gods, fullers. Homer, of course, there's probably a lot in here on Homer. Horace. And I'll close it and leave it at that. It definitely feels as though it's been well used. So there is that. Let's get this turned around and looking at me again. And I'll show you the two other books that I picked up today, because of course I went back in for this, but it's more or less impossible to walk out of the bookshop with only one book. And I came across a copy of The Uncommon Traveler by Charles Dickens. And it's in pretty nice condition. And I did a quick Google in the shop just to confirm that I was buying what I thought I was buying. Because as I recalled, and I recalled correctly, The Uncommon Traveler is Dickens' autobiographical collection of memoirs. And so even though he's referring to himself throughout as the uncommon traveler, he's in fact piecing together a series of memoirs in this work. And so the full title is The Uncommercial Traveler, The Lamplighter to be Read at Dusk, Sunday Under Three Heads, and The Lazy Tour of Two Idle Apprentices. And I think I just called it The Uncommon Traveler when it's The Uncommercial Traveler. That is the correct title, so I apologize for that. But we have this frontispiece of an audience here. And this is from 1914, published by Chapman and Hall Limited in London, with 13 illustrations by J.G. Pinwell, W.M., George Cruikshanks, and Fizz. Preface to the first edition of The Uncommercial Traveler from 1860. These papers have been received with very great favor by the public and are here reprinted in a convenient form. The series is for the first time complete, and it is the Uncommercial Traveler's intention to take the road again before winter sets in. So Charles Dickens certainly was known for his tours, his literary tours that he went on to do public readings of his works. And so my guess here is that some of this is going to be an account of those trips that he took, and some of it may be somewhat more personal. The Uncommercial Traveler, his first general line of business. Allow me to introduce myself first negatively. No landlord is my friend, and no brother, no chambermaid loves me. No waiter worships me, no boots admires and envies me. No round beef or tongue or ham is expressly cooked for me. No pigeon pie is especially made for me. No hotel advertisement is personally addressed to me. No hotel room tapestried with great coats and railway wrappers is set apart for me. No house of public entertainment in the United Kingdom greatly cares for my opinion of its brandy or sherry. When I go upon journeys, I am not usually rated at a low figure in the bill. When I come home from my journeys, I never get any commission. I know nothing about prices and should have no idea, if I were put to it, how to wheedle a man into ordering something he doesn't want. As a town traveler, I am never to be seen driving a vehicle externally like a young and volatile pianoforte van, and internally like an oven in which a number of flat boxes are baking in layers. So this sounds quite entertaining, and I'm looking forward to digging into it. We have a record of faithful service, Liverpool police force, hotel refreshments, a dramatical dog, the genuine sort, an ore, the long lost. Oh, here's an illustration, a phenomenon at Titbull's. Safe in port, a lazy tour of two idle apprentices. Whispering of greatness. So yeah, that should be an interesting one as well. And then, because I was reading a couple of things lately, I decided to look through the shop and try to find some of the works of Bacon. And I did come across this little volume of Bacon's essays. It's a little bit worse for wear on the back, but that's fine with me. So this is Bacon's essays, including his moral and historical works. And mainly what I was looking for in a collection of his works was his essay on the advancement of learning. And so I did find that here. And this just seems to be a cheap little edition. Frederick Warne and Company in New York. Never heard of this publisher. But the preface here, which is on the back of the title page, you know it's cheap when the preface appears on the back of the title page, because that means they're trying to save on paper. In this volume are combined with Bacon's world-famous essays, his summary of learning, as it was in his day, its then possessions and its needs, a treatise which awoke the learned of Europe to an earnest desire of improvement and widely extended the reign of knowledge. His wisdom of the ancients, in which he finds a new and remarkably ingenious sense, chiefly political in the myths of the old world. His Atlantis, a dream of the new world, his life of Henry VIII, and historical fragments. The editor is indebted, and it goes on to talk about the editor, but a reference of when the scriptural reference was referred to, translation of the Latin Vulgate, and the fact that a large glossary has been added. And the print is quite small in here. Another indication that this was a relatively cheap volume when it was produced. But I don't think I'm going to read through this all, in order right away. I think I'm rather going to skip on to the section on advancement of learning. The first book of the Proficiency and Advancement of Learning, which is about, a third of the way through. And it takes up a good portion of the book. From page 129 all the way to 276. So this is mainly what I wanted out of this. I wanted to read his thoughts on learning. And I don't believe I've ever read any Bacon before, so it is going to be a new experience for me to read him. But anyway, that's what I picked up today on my little shopping excursion. 3 wonderful books here, and I'll call it at that. I hope you're all having a great day.